We've had a bit of time to digest the fact that we now have a Bond 26 director. So the question now is, what kind of Bond film can we expect from Denis Villeneuve? He is a huge fan of James Bond. His first Bond film, apparently, was Dr. No. He went to the cinema with his father. His favourite eras of Bond are the Connery movies and the Craig movies. And one of the reasons for the Craig movies is the more emotional depth that they give. But with Connery are the kind of classic movies. Knowing that and knowing the kind of filmmaker he is, it might give us some clues as to what kind of film we can expect. My first impression really was that we would get an overlong film, quite slow moving, but looking, visually it's going to be fantastic. But, it's true that not all his films are as long as Dune. And I also have to say that the book on which his films were based is exceedingly long. It's quite complex. And so he's taken quite a complicated story and sensibly filmed it in two parts, because the book actually is split fairly evenly into two different sections. And so I think he has a knack for taking these, huge stories and really kind of nailing down what is important in them to create his story and then his screenplay from that. So I think one of the things that he's going to be able to do is come up with a story that is going to be one of the best Bond stories we have seen for a long time, if not forever. I think he's going to really be able to do that. He, as well as being a director, he is also a writer. He's deeply involved with the writing process. So I think we can expect his hand quite strongly in this film, and he is really going to want to nail the script. There is not going to be all this kind of half-baked script writing that we've sometimes experienced on the recent films, thinking about Spectre, when they just couldn't get the ending right and there were all these it was the Sony leak. There were all these emails between the different executives trying to get it together and not believing that it was quite right. So I think that is one of the big things that we are going to get from Villeneuve, a tight story. It may be paced a bit. He likes to build up things, so it may be slow moving in parts, but it's going to be solid, which many of the recent Bond films, well, in fact, many of the Bond films, they aren't solid. So I think that is one area where he is going to really step up. I'd also say that I think many Bond fans were expecting a change of tone, a change of direction for the next iteration of Bond. I certainly was. I thought after the Craig era was, a bit too serious sometimes, and I was fine with the serious. I think Casino Royale stands there as one of the best Bond films of all time. But sometimes they try to do serious, and then I remember Daniel Craig and Sam Mendes, they said that their first Bond film and one of their favourites was Live and Let Die, and obviously that is not a serious Bond film. So I think there were kind of tonal problems within some of Craig's movies where they should have just gone for one thing or the other, and what they should have gone for was serious and gritty, in my opinion. So I think we are going to see, certainly with Bond 26, who knows beyond that, a gritty Bond film. And I imagine really that what they're trying to do is lay the groundwork for the next few films. So I think probably we're likely to see a gritty film, a gritty series of films through the next 10 years or so. We'll see. So that's the first thing to say. I would also say that I think Villeneuve is likely to use the locations a bit better than we're used to. For a long time, I've had the feeling that it's just like location, location, location. So it's like more like Bond spends time traveling between locations than he's actually in a place. And one of the things that I always liked about the books was the fact that Ian Fleming took you to a place and you felt like you were there, and it became one of the characters almost. And certainly in the 1950s, when Fleming's books were first published, people weren't able to easily go to Jamaica. They were, barely able to go to France, and so, travel was very exotic. For us, it's much more usual. But I still miss the days of being landed somewhere and really feeling that you're there. And so I think that maybe with Denis Villeneuve, the locations will feel a lot more deliberate, and Bond will be in a location for a reason that drives the story forward, and you will get again a feeling of being there. It's a bit like in Dune that you get the feeling of being on Arrakis, and it's kind of immersive. And I think part of this immersive world will show up in the kind of world that we feel we're in. It's going to feel dangerous, and spying is going to feel dangerous, I think, rather than glamorous, which, with Sean Connery, I think, a lot of it was kind of glamour. Roger Moore, it was, a lot about champagne and women and so on. This is going to feel much more dangerous. It's not going to be something that Bond can laugh off with a quip, for example. So it's going to be a serious, gritty Bond film. And I know that's not going to be to everybody's taste, but I think that is what we are going to get. I also think that the James Bond we get is going to be introspective, and he's going to be, there's a moment in Casino Royale after the stairwell fight when Bond goes to his hotel room and he's washing off the blood, and he's taking he's got a glass of whiskey there, and you can really feel that he has gone through something, which very often I think you don't in the Bond films. Until Craig, it happened very, very few times. There's a moment in Tomorrow Night Never Dies when Pierce Brosnan is sitting in his room and sipping vodka while pining over Paris, and that's kind of a moment from the books. You really get a feeling of it being from Ian Fleming then. If I think about other occasions, they don't really exist. They don't spring off the screen in that respect. So I think maybe we're going to get more of those. I guess another moment would be George Lazenby at the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service when he's actually crying. He feels something. He's just lost the love of his life, and he feels it. That, if you think about Skyfall, when Severine was shot dead on Silver's island lair, and Bond just kind of casually, I can't remember what comment he makes at the moment, a waste of whiskey or whatever it is. And that, I think, many people felt that he just brushed off her death in a way that wasn't Bond at all. So I think those moments are going to be out again, and we're going to get Bond who actually cares about the people who he's working with. So I think that's one thing. So, I don't know if the days of the sacrificial lamb are going to be over under Denis Villeneuve or not. But I think that he is going to feel their deaths when they happen. So I think that's another important aspect. And if we talk about the villain, obviously major role in the films. For a long time, I think really we haven't had a solid villain perhaps since Le Chiffre. And Spectre, it's just like, well, who was the villain? Was it C or was it Blofeld? And then Then you get this, this relationship between Blofeld and Bond, which was completely unnecessary. You're not going to have that in Villeneuve. There's no way that would have got through him. He wouldn't have allowed that. So I think that's an important thing to say. The villain is not going to be cartoonish. The villain is going to be serious. And if you think of the world at the moment, we're in a pretty unstable place, really. The whole dynamics of the world have shifted over the last 5-10 years, and I think we're likely to see some of that in the film. We are going to feel that it's quite a dangerous place, especially for a spy, and trading in secrets and going around killing people. It's not going to be an easy life. Okay, let's talk about secondary characters. M, Q, Moneypenny. Well, I think M is going to be a serious character, and maybe, like Bond, feels the weight of the burden of responsibility, where you get a bit of that in the book sometimes, in For Your Eyes Only, and M explains to Bond about the weight of all the responsibility he has and the burden it takes on him. So maybe we'll see a bit of that, but we're not going to have a jokey relationship with M, I think that's for sure. Q, I think, again, he's going to be a serious character. We're not going to have a kind of more lightweight, jovial character. I don't think there is going to be much banter between Bond and Q. And with Moneypenny, well, I'm not sure. I think maybe there will be some kind of sexual tension between them. I don't think it's going to be that obvious, but we will have to see about that. But I'm not going to make any predictions about how much they are used in the film, but personally, I would like to see them much reduced from how they've been in the last few films, when they get almost as much screen time as Bond himself. And likewise with the gadgets, we're not going to see the Bondola or anything outlandish. I don't think even we're going to see things like smart blood or anything like that, because it's just too implausible. Any gadgets that we have are going to be pretty grounded, based in reality, and they're going to seem plausible. So, as I said, if you're looking forward to a Venice chase with a gondola that turns into a hovercraft, then you're out of luck on this. It's not going to happen. We're going to have something, I don't know, exploding pens maybe, but we'll have to see. I can't really think of any examples, but if you think about the use of technology over the last few years, mainly I'm thinking about drone warfare in Ukraine, and the technology of the drones has come on massively. So I think maybe that is that kind of gadget that we're going to see more than anything. I don't think we're going to potentially have as much action as we were used to. Again, the action is going to be, it's going to drive the story. It's going to make sense within the plot. It's going to make sense. We're not going to have one of those Bond films where they design the action sequences and then write a story to connect the action sequences. The action sequences are going to come organically out of the storyline. So I think we'll see some great action. I think Dune and Blade Runner show that Villeneuve can do action. I don't know if he handed that off to a second unit or did it himself. And I don't know what the situation would be under Amazon. We are in completely new territory, so we'll have to see with that. Okay, well, those are a few of my thoughts about what kind of film we might see from Villeneuve. That may change over time as I reflect on it a bit more, but I would really like to know what you think. Are you pro or anti Villeneuve? What kind of film do you think he will give us? Do you agree or disagree with what I've just said? Please leave a comment below, because I'd really like to know what you think. And if you want to watch another video about Bond 26, why don't you just take a look at this one here?